Pivoting to Saturday, noon Eastern time in Happy Valley, Penn State and SMU. I asked Tom this, like, what are Penn State's flaws?
Top 5 teams and wide receivers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just not a lot. And SMU's not a top 5 team.
Secondary?
That's true.
What'd you say?
I think the secondary is a concern.
Really?
Oregon tore them up.
I think A.J. Harris is really good. I think Zion Tracy got absolutely abused by Tez Johnson, though. But I think Zion Tracy's been good most of the season.
And Tez Johnson is unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got another gear.
SMU got a lot out of Brashard Smith running the football. I don't know if they're going to get that against Penn State's defensive front. I think that Penn State defensive front's really, really good against the run. I tell you what, we are going to have our lock show on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, for our best bets for the college football playoff. But if we were to say pick one game that's going to be an upset, pick one game that's going to be a blowout, this one I would factor as more likely to be a blowout than an upset.
In which direction?
It is
like it ain't.
It could be double alt line day. I think that Penn State, if Penn State can get a good start, then I think that could be a very, very uncomfortable position, because one thing that SMU did a great job of rallying against Clemson. I think if they fall behind in that kind of hole against Penn State on the road in that stadium, I don't think they're rallying back the way they did against the Tigers. Different opponent, different setting across the board.
I would very much agree with that assessment, yes.
Especially because the Penn State run game is better.
Yeah. If they give up 21 points in the first quarter to Penn State, game over.
Yeah. Night. Let's go ahead and let's go for a walk and then get ready. How
would you see Penn State putting up 21 points? Running all over them, a little bit of play action pass, mostly physically. That to me is the big question mark in this one. You know, Penn State is a more physical team, even more so than Clemson, I would say, especially their defense, but also their run game. Like, if that to me comes down to, can SMU, probably more so on defense, because I think they'll figure out a way to put up some points. It's a matter of if they come too late or not, like they did against Clemson. But I think it's all about, can they slow down Singleton and Allen?
And that is the key, because if you look at, like, statistically, SMU's been a pretty damn good run defense this year. It's just, have they faced an offensive line like this with running backs like this? And I don't know that. I mean, what's the best rushing offense this team has faced?
SMU?
Yeah. Like, looking through their schedule, it's like, they've Nevada, Houston Christian, BYU, TCU, FSU, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, BC, Virginia, Cal, Clemson.
Probably Louisville, or, weird to say this, but TCU.
Yeah. So I do think that is an area Penn State can exploit.
Clemson was banged up too, like O-line wise, but they had a decent run game this year with Maffa.
Mm-hmm. But even then, in that game, wasn't most of it Cade?
Yeah,
more than Maffa. So, like, you're not going to get that with Aller, and losing Pribula is, I think, a detriment to their overall ability on offense. But SMU's defensive line has been good all year. It did not look nearly as good as against Clemson, at least especially in the first quarter. I think that Penn State will be able to push them around a little bit down there. I do think that the one area that I would really prefer beating SMU, though, is in their secondary. It's just, as we discussed, Penn State's primary weakness is they don't really have great receivers. So I would expect that this could be a huge Tyler Warren game, especially now that Pribula's gone. We might see Warren used in a lot new, like, in the same fashion that Pribula's been, because we've seen him line up at quarterback before in those spots. I think we're going to see a wider playbook for Warren than we've already seen to this point, which, considering how much he's done, that's kind of wild. But at the same time, you go through Penn State's schedule, and obviously they played good teams. They played Ohio State. They played Oregon. But they haven't really seen a quarterback like Kevin Jennings. And for a team that is so good up front with the defensive pass rush, if they get too far upfield or they leave open lanes, Kevin Jennings can exploit that in ways that most of the quarterbacks they have seen haven't. Dylan Gabriel did a little bit. Will Howard did a little bit, but they are not the kind of big play, explosive quarterback that I think Jennings is. So that will be very interesting to watch to see if Penn State's playing a lot of man and leaving some open lanes for him to exploit and just extend drives. So I think it's going to be important. If SMU wants to win this game, I think Kevin Jennings has to do it with his arm and his legs.
I would agree with that. I do think this is probably like the most interesting contrast of styles game that we have so far, because SMU is going to want to go fast. Penn State already operates at a pretty slow tempo. I think you're going to see them operate at like max slow tempo, not only to hold the football and keep the SMU offense like out of rhythm, but also because I think they're going to want to make SMU tip some of these blitzes. But later in the play clock, responding to the motion stuff, is it too late to check out of it? You know, I think that is a pretty fascinating chess game here. To me, I'm really interested to see that, what they can do there. Like Penn State's defense, I think, is gettable in the secondary. Is SMU's drop back game good enough to exploit that, or are they going to get the ball enough just to hit some explosives and catch Penn State with some of the tempo and the motion stuff? I don't know, but Penn State offense, SMU defense to me is pretty interesting for that reason.